Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I did a video not too long ago spreading a Bible verse. It was Isaiah 54:17. You can look up that Bible verse if you want to. I had to memorize it personally. I could say it on here, and you know what, I will. No weapon formed against me will prosper, and every tongue which rises against me in judgment I shall condemn. You shall condemn. Anybody can condemn. So, two questions that people reluctantly ask to why they're skeptical on God's existence is because they want to know what created God and why should I believe in God. Okay, so I'm about to answer these two questions, or do my best to answer them to my capability, okay, on here, to anybody who is skeptic about that. So I hope this video reaches the right people too, by the way. So, the first question, and this is coming directly out of the Bible, my friend. The New King James Version, actually. Just to show the proof, what I have in my lap. In KJV. New King James, Holy Bible. So it's in my lap and I'm reading. So on page 5, that the question, how can we know God exists, is going to be answered. So, both scientists and non-scientists use experiments to prove or disprove things. For instance, suppose you want to know why a tire keeps going flat. You might hold it under water to see if any air bubbles trickled it, right? Like I have done with my bicycle tire before, to see if any air bubbles came up. That's an example. You might put your ear close to it to listen for the push sound of the air leak, right? Whatever method you choose, one of your 5 senses is involved: sight, sound, touch, taste, or smell. In fact, all science experiments depend upon the 5 senses in some way. Without those senses, science has no way to find answers. So it depends entirely on on the senses in some way, shape, form, or fashion for the evidence of whatever they're trying to prove or disprove. And typically it's to disprove. But some things in the world cannot be tested by using the 5 senses directly. For instance, things like love cannot be touched. Seen, smelled, tasted, or heard. Tell me if you ever seen, smelled, tasted, or heard love. Do you love someone? Of course you do. You love your mom, you love your dad, you love your siblings, you love your girlfriend, or you love your wife. You love your child. You love your family. You love your friends. If there is any way you can perform an experiment on that love by using 5 senses you have, human senses, can you weigh love? See how much it weighs? Can you do that? No. Can you see what color it is? No. Can you put it in a bucket and feel it in hot or cold? Certainly not. There are some things in this life that cannot be tested directly by using the 5 senses of yourself. And that can be scary for some people, for some things, but it's the truth, it's the case. There's no other way to put it. So the same is true of God. We may not be able to prove his existence by seeing, touching, testing, smelling, or hearing him, but don't be fooled when people say we cannot prove God exists because we cannot use our 5 senses on him. Many things, like love and God, cannot be looked at directly, yet we still know for certain that they exist. So so those people who say if they can't taste it, touch it, smell it, see it, or hear it, it doesn't exist, it's not true. So you're basically saying love doesn't exist? Is that what you're basically saying? For history examples, the world wars didn't happen, didn't exist, just because you can't taste it, touch it, smell it, hear it, or see it, you know. I mean, look at that logic. Many things, like love and God, cannot be looked at directly, yet we still know for certain that they exist. Suppose you were walking on the beach and saw a trail of human footprints in the sand, but no one else was around. Even though you couldn't see anyone, you would still know that someone had been there because you could see the tracks. In a similar way, even though someone had been there because you could see the tracks, in a similar way, even we can't see God. We can see his footprints in the universe. And we can know for certain that he exists. In Romans 1:20, the Apostle Paul wrote, "For since the creation of the world, his God's invincible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made." Paul meant that even though we might not be able to see God, we can see the things that God has made and know a lot about him. It is almost like how policemen use fingerprints. Each person in the world has a very special, unique set of fingerprints. No two sets of fingerprints are the same. Not one. At least never that I've heard. Never that I've seen. They're all different. Because we're all different. We're all different people. We like different things. We don't share the same DNA. So when policemen find a set of fingerprints at the scene of a crime, they cannot know exactly who left the fingerprints without ever seeing the person. They can look at the visible things, the fingerprints, and know about the person that they cannot see who left the fingerprints. God has left fingerprints all over the universe. When we study the world, we begin to see things that only God could have made. The visible things in the universe, like the sun, the earth, and people, tell us much about the invisible qualities of God. The Apostle Paul explained that God has provided so much evidence to prove he exists that those who deny his existence will be without excuse. Romans 1:20 in parentheses. No one single good reason exists that a person will be able to give God for choosing not to believe in him. Consider the following 7 reasons to believe in God. Matter demands a maker. Matter demands a maker. Every material effect must have a cause that came before it, or was a I'm trying to figure out this word. Simultaneous to it, and is greater than it. The universe is material effect. Therefore, the universe must have a cause that came before it and was greater than it. No rational person denies the fact that matter exists. The universe and every atom that makes it up is a reality. The logical question to ask is, where did it all come from? From the Milky Way to the most distant galaxy in the universe, what was the cause? What made matter? A study of the material universe, reveals that every physical effect must have an adic cause. I don't even know if I said that right. ADEQUATE. I think so. An idea known as the law of cause and effect, or the law of causality. So what caused the universe and all of the matter in the universe? One theory, known as the Big Bang, claims that about 14 billion years ago, all of the matter and energy in the universe was concentrated in a tiny ball of matter that exploded, causing the eventual formation of galaxies throughout the universe. The obvious problem with that idea is that even if the Big Bang actually happened, and there is much scientific evidence that shows it did, a person must still explain where did the original ball of stuff come from? Where did it, the ball of stuff, where did it come from? It came from where, okay? It must have an adic cause. What do some of these influential people who do not believe in God argue about the cause of that matter? They say it simply popped into existence from nothing. But yet science itself tells us that something cannot come from nothing at all. So that contradicts that in their own study. The observable truth is, however, in nature, matter and energy are neither created nor destroyed. Scientists refer to this fact as the first law of thermodynamics. The Big Bang idea cannot provide a reasonable explanation for the cause of the original ball of the matter. Nothing is not a reasonable explanation. What's more, we can know that the material universe is not eternal. The second law of thermodynamics states that matter and energy became less usable over time. If the universe was eternal, there would be no usable energy available now. But the universe is full of usable energy, so it cannot be eternal. At one time in the past, the material universe did not exist. Then at some point, matter came into existence. But since matter is not eternal and cannot create itself from nothing, then something outside of the material realm must have brought matter into existence. Does that not make sense? In short, matter demands a maker. The evidence shortly indicates that the cause of the universe cannot be explained without supernatural being. Something has to be eternally powerful, but we know it cannot be natural or material. Romans 1:20 says, "For since the creation of the world, his invincible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and God held so that they are without excuse." Without some type of eternal power, our universe cannot exist. And the idea that our universe created itself was from nothing is the furthest thing from either a scientific or a rational explanation. And the second reason is life demands a life giver. Life does not come from non-life. Life has always came from life. 100 out of 100% of time. Life has always came from life, not life from non-life. In the material universe, life arises from previously existing life of its own kind. Life cannot spontaneously generate from non-living chemicals. Thus, a supernatural, intelligent mind must have created living organisms. Spontaneous generation is the idea that life can come from chemicals found in rocks, dirt, water, and the air. For hundreds of years, people lived that life often popped into existence from lifeless chemicals as scientific proof of this idea. They would give examples like this one. If you leave meat on the kitchen counter in the middle of the summer for 2 weeks, guess what will sometimes spontaneously generate on it? Question mark. Maggots. That's right. Since people many years ago did not see any maggots crawl onto the steak, they believed that the maggots popped into existence from non-living chemicals in the air and on the steak. In the late 1660s, a scientist named Francis Redi. I'm about to destroy this name. Redi did a very simple experiment. He had 3 groups of jars with meat in them. One of the groups of jars he sealed tightly so that no air of flies could get to the meat. Another group of the jars he left open so that air and flies could get to the meat. He covered the third group of jars with a netting-like fabric so the air could get in, but flies could not. As he watched the jars and the meat, he saw flies trying to get into the sealed jars, but they could not. He also saw flies landing on the uncovered meat and landing on the netting fabric within a few days. He saw maggots on the uncovered meat and on the netting. He did not see any maggot on the meat that was covered by the netting or on the sealed meat. Reddy rightly concluded that the maggots came from the flies, and they did not spontaneously generate. His research helped others see that life does not come spontaneously generated. For another 200 years after Reddy, many people still believed in spontaneous generation. The man who destroyed the idea from a French scientist named Louis Pasteur in the mid-1860s, scientists were under microscopes to look at tiny bacteria in things like meat or hay broth. Since they did not see any of these bacteria flying into the broth, they thought the bacteria must be popping into existence out of the non-living chemicals found in the broth and air. Pasteur knew this was not the case, and he arranged a very famous experiment that proved once and for all that in nature life comes from previously existing life of its own kind. The experiments of Reddy, Pasteur, and the others helped us see another important scientific law, the law of biogenesis. Now I got to stop here because I got a prayer meeting coming up, not prayer meeting, but a worship meeting coming up tonight. I'm going to my pastor's house and we're going to be worshiping together, so I'm going to stop the video here. I know I didn't get to every single reason, but I was a little timed. I should have waited to a different time to make this video, but I will be back to you guys, so have a good one. And I'll finish the other question along with the other reasons. Have a good one. Guys, I'm back, so I'm going to finish what I was talking about. So I apparently, I rewatched the video that I made before I went to my service, and I stopped at where it said the law of biogenics, so I'm going to try to find that in here again and start back exactly where I left off, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm going to finish with all these reasons, and we'll get to the next question. I'll answer that from what this states. Okay, so let's go. So the law of biogenesis, the scientific law of biogenesis simply states that all life in the natural world comes from previously existing life of its own kind. This law is very helpful in showing that there is a God. The idea is sometimes presented that life evolved from non-living chemicals billions of years ago. It is claimed that chemicals such as ammonia, hydrogen, and nitrogen somehow got together by accidental random processes and formed the first single-celled life. It is further stated that all animals that are in the world today evolved from that first single-celled structure. One of the main problems with this theory is that it is based on the idea that life spontaneously generates or pops into existence from non-living chemicals. Today, we know that spontaneous generation is impossible. Life in the universe cannot come from non-living chemicals in nature. Life comes from pre-existing life of its own kind. Life comes from life. Never once life came from non-life. You are very familiar with this truth. Would you believe it if a friend of yours said that he had a dog that gave birth to a baby kitten? Of course not. You wouldn't believe that. Would you believe it if he said the baby was a lizard? Would you believe it if he said the baby was part dog and part bird?
Why wouldn't you believe that? I know you wouldn't. Why wouldn't? So why wouldn't you? Because you understand that the law of biogenesis, you might not have been there when the dog gave birth, but you can know that it was a puppy based on the fact that life comes from life of its own kind. Dogs always have puppies, never llamas or part puppies and part sheep. Cats always have kittens. Humans always have human babies. These are observable biological truths. In the book of Genesis, which means the beginning, the Bible gives the only specific explanation for the origin of life. Genesis 1 explains that God created all living plants, animals, and humans on day 3, 5, and 6 of the creation week. In addition, the Bible explains that God set up the law of biogenesis so that all living things have been producing after their own kind of thousands of years. In Genesis 1:24, the Bible says, "Let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping things and beasts of the earth, each according to its kind." And it was so. The reason peaches always come from a peach seed is because this is how the Creator designed it from the very beginning. It is true that dogs may have babies that might be a different color, size, or height than their parents, but they will always be dogs. They will never be cats or canaries or cows. No natural process can explain life on the earth. It had to be placed here by a supernatural creator who put it in place, the law of biogenesis. This law of science is just one more proof that God exists. But I still know there will be people who will deny the crap out of that. One reason being that they're just very self-prideful, and they want to reject God and His Spirit as much as, they just don't want to accept it, bottom line. But even if they do deny this till the day they die, we do know that this right here is facts, okay? And I'm sure every single scientist in the world would at least agree with me on this, what I'm reading. So the third reason God exists is because design demands a designer. Anything that exhibits complex functional design demands an intelligent designer. The universe exhibits complex functional design, therefore the universe must have a designer. Everyday observation reveals and confirms that obvious facts that complex functional design demands a designer. Paintings demand painters. Okay? Have you ever once seen a painting, a physical painting, be made without a painter? Be made without a creator of it? I haven't. Have you? I kind of doubt it. Poems demand poets. Someone to write the poem. Architecture demands architects. Everyone knows that cars and computers, pianos, projectors, all require engineers, technicians, and tuners for them to exist and function properly. But what about the universe as a whole? Can it be described accurately as designed? If so, what does such design imply about its origin? A study of the universe shows that it is extremely fine-tuned and functionally complex, from the Earth's precise orbit around the sun to a shorebird's 15,000-mile yearly migration pattern, and the amazing distinctive system of the human body. There are literally millions of examples of fine-tuned design in nature, but consider just one example involving electrons and protons. The ratio of the mass of an electron to a proton is 1 comma 836, which means that a proton is 1,836 times more massive than an electron. Even with this mass difference, however, electrons and protons have the same electrical charge. Scientists suggest that this is the electronical charge of the electron, where were altered by 1 part in a billion, or our bodies would instantly explode. Is that coincidence? So basically, if that was just off by 1 or so much, it would instantly